You know, when we think of like big scientists, Darwin's always right up there.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But what if I told you there's more to his story than you think?
Really?
Yeah, like way more.
Okay, I'm interested.
So today we're diving deep
Mm.
into Charles Darwin,
Cool.
but not like the typical textbook stuff.
Okay.
We've got excerpts translated from this Chinese language video, and
Uh-huh.
let me tell you, it shines a whole new light on him. His family,
Yeah.
some money, like stuff that might really surprise you.
Okay, so we're going beyond the science.
Exactly.
That's good.
And one thing that's just like, whoa,
Yeah.
is how wealthy this guy actually was.
Or interesting. I always pictured him like hunched over in a dusty lab.
Right, totally.
Yeah.
But no, imagine like a family tree,
Okay.
and it's not just one powerful family, it's like interwoven with two.
Whoa.
The Darwins and the Wedgwoods,
The Wedgwoods, like the pottery people?
the pottery giants.
Wow.
And we're talking generations of them marrying each other. So it's like this massive network.
So not just money, but influence too.
Oh, yeah, tons of influence.
Hmm.
And that meant Darwin never had to work a day in his life.
Seriously.
Seriously.
That's wild. It makes you think about all the brilliant minds throughout history who, maybe they couldn't follow their passions because they didn't have that kind of support.
Right. Like how much potential was lost because of money.
Yeah, exactly.
And it wasn't like his dad didn't have ambitions for him.
Oh, so he did push him towards something.
Oh, yeah. His dad was a doctor, super successful, and he totally wanted Darwin to follow in his footsteps.
Makes sense.
So off Darwin goes to like the best medical school at the time, the University of Edinburgh.
Big shoes to fill.
But medicine, not really his thing.
I think we all know that story.
We do.
Hmm.
But the sources go into how much he struggled, especially with dissections.
Oh, yeah. I remember that from somewhere.
Yeah, he just couldn't handle it.
You can kind of imagine that tension, though, right?
Yeah.
Like societal expectations versus individual passions.
Oh, totally. And that's playing out even in a super privileged family like Darwin's.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then get this, there's this anecdote about Darwin's brother just casually mentioning that they've inherited enough money to never work a day in their lives.
Whoa, are you serious? Like straight up trust fund kids?
Yep.
Okay, so not just wealthy, but like never have to lift a finger wealthy?
Exactly.
I mean, I can't even imagine that kind of security. It just makes you wonder how different our own lives might be,
Totally right. Like if we had that kind of safety net, would we be doing the same things?
It's a really interesting thought.
It is. And for Darwin, all that inherited wealth, it gave him the freedom to explore.
And that led him to science.
Exactly, to scientific exploration.
Which brings us to the HMS Beagle.
The journey that changed everything.
5 years, right? 5 years sailing around the world.
5 years, can you imagine?
It's mind-blowing.
And he wasn't just sightseeing, he was meticulously documenting everything he saw.
Darwin was such a detailed observer.
Oh my gosh, obsessed is more like it.
Obsessed, yeah.
18 observation diaries, 4 notebooks just on animals, and 13 logs filled with geological research.
That's incredible, the sheer volume of data he collected.
It's crazy,
Yeah.
right? And it shows how dedicated he was, like that kind of attention to detail.
It really foreshadows the depth of research that would go into, like, on the origin of species.
Totally. It's all connected.
It's amazing.
And here's the thing. This whole time, Darwin's finances, totally
Okay.
solid.
Okay, so still living the good life while sailing the world.
Oh, yeah. He had a comfortable income from his dad.
Yeah.
And then, get this,
More money.
more money. He marries his cousin Emma,
His cousin?
his cousin, and guess what family she's from?
No way, another Wedgwood.
Another Wedgwood, keeping it all in the family.
Wow, talk about a power couple.
And they were smart with their money, too.
Well,
Invested, it grew their wealth even more.
so maybe Darwin wasn't just a brilliant scientist, but like a savvy investor, too.
Right. It makes you wonder.
It really does.
But here's where things get interesting. Darwin had all this groundbreaking research, but he was terrified of publishing it.
Really? Why?
He knew that challenging the idea of divine creation was like a huge risk, especially back then.
Oh, yeah, that was a different time for sure.
Imagine having this revolutionary theory, but being totally paralyzed by fear.
That must have been incredibly difficult for him.
It was, and it shows you how much pressure there was back then to conform to social and religious norms.
It's a good reminder of the context surrounding these discoveries.
And that's when this fascinating guy, Alfred Russel Wallace, enters the scene.
Wallace.
Yeah, he was working totally independently and came up with a theory of evolution that was super similar to Darwin's.
Wow, what a coincidence.
Right, and it was Wallace's work that finally pushed Darwin to publish On the Origin of Species.
So even though Darwin was hesitant, he knew he had to get his ideas out there.
Exactly. He couldn't let Wallace get all the credit.
It's fascinating how these two minds were working on the same problem from completely different angles.
It really is, and it shows you how science can happen in all sorts of unexpected ways.
Absolutely.
And the differences between Darwin and Wallace are super interesting, too. Like,
Yeah.
Darwin was all about meticulous documentation, years of observations.
Yeah, he was a data guy for sure.
Totally. Whereas Wallace focused more on humans.
Humans.
Yeah, like anthropology, the impact of civilization on evolution.
That's a different approach for sure.
It is, and it makes you think about all the different ways we can approach scientific discovery.
Absolutely. It's not always a straight line.
Nope, not at all. And in the next part, we'll dive into Wallace's ideas about humans because they're pretty mind-blowing.
Okay, I'm ready for more.
Me too. This is getting good.
It is.
But here's where Wallace's ideas get really interesting. Like, he's all in on evolution,
Okay.
but he sees humans as like a special case.
Oh, how so?
He's like our minds, abstract thought, morality, all that stuff.
Right.
He says natural selection alone can't explain it.
So there's something more.
Yeah, he thought there was this whole spiritual dimension to humans that like goes beyond just the physical stuff.
So he's not rejecting science. He's just saying it's not the whole picture.
Exactly. It's like science plus something else.
And what was that something else?
Well, one of the things that really got him thinking was looking at these so-called primitive societies.
Okay.
They didn't have all the technology we do,
Right.
but he saw them as having like way more social harmony, respect for life.
Interesting. So he's questioning the idea of progress?
Totally. He's like, is all this advancement actually making us better?
That's a pretty radical idea, especially back then.
It is. And it makes you think about our world today, right? Like all this tech, all this stuff. Are we really better off?
Yeah, it's a good question.
And Wallace was worried about this stuff. Like, he saw a purely materialistic worldview as dangerous.
Dangerous how?
Like, if we only focus on science and progress and we forget about ethics, spirituality.
I see. So it's about finding a balance.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what he was trying to do with his ideas.
It's interesting how these debates from back then are still relevant today.
Oh, totally right. Like, we're still wrestling with these questions about technology, ethics, the meaning of life.
Absolutely. And Wallace's work gives us some historical perspective on all that.
It does. And it reminds us that science and religion haven't always been at odds.
Oh, yeah. For a long time, they were seen as going hand in hand.
Right. Like, think about all those early scientists. A lot of them are religious, too.
Yeah, they were trying to understand God's creation through science.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It wasn't about one being right and the other being wrong.
It was about finding different ways to make sense of the world.
And it makes you wonder, right, can science really explain everything?
Like consciousness, our sense of purpose, all that.
Is there something more that we just can't grasp with science alone?
That's a big question.
It is, and it's something that Darwin himself wrestled with.
Oh, in what way?
Well, the sources talk about this tragedy in his life, the death of his daughter, Anne.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she was only 10 when she died.
That's heartbreaking.
It really was, and it hit Darwin hard.
I can only imagine.
He started exploring spiritualism, trying to connect with her spirit.
So even with all his scientific knowledge, he was still searching for answers.
Yeah, he was a human being just like us, trying to cope with loss and grief.
It's a good reminder that even the most brilliant minds are still vulnerable.
Absolutely. And family was so important to Darwin.
Yeah, he had a lot of kids, right?
7 who survived to adulthood.
Wow.
And he was just like, his dad totally focused on providing for them, making sure they were financially secure.
So carrying on that family legacy of wealth and privilege.
Yeah, but it was more than that.
What do you mean?
It was like he had this deep need to protect them, to make sure they never had to struggle like he'd seen others do.
That makes sense. It's a very human instinct.
It is, and it makes you think about what really drove him.
Like, was it just the science, or was it something deeper?
Exactly, and the sources suggest that his family was a huge motivating factor.
It's fascinating how these personal details can add so much depth to our understanding of historical figures.
It really is, and it challenges that image we often have of Darwin as this, like, solitary genius.
Right. Instead, we see a man who is deeply devoted to his family, grappling with big questions.
And doing it all while living a life of privilege.
It's a more complex picture than we usually get.
Way more complex. And in the final part, we'll wrap up this whole deep dive, explore what it all means for us today.
Sounds good. I'm ready for the big takeaway.
And get this, by the time he died, Darwin was seriously rich, like millions in today's money.
Wow, that's a lot of dough.
He made sure all 7 of his kids were set for life.
So he really achieved that goal of protecting them.
Totally. He wanted them to have all the opportunities he did.
It really adds another layer to his story, doesn't it? Like, it's not just about the science, it's about the man, the family man.
Right. Like it humanizes him in a way.
Absolutely.
And it makes you realize that the real Darwin was way more complex than that image we usually have of him.
The solitary genius thing.
Yeah, like he was brilliant, for sure,
Hmm?
but also a devoted dad and husband, grappling with big questions, living with privilege, and all the anxieties that come with it.
It really makes you think about how much human nature stays the same over time.
It does, right? Like
Yeah.
we're all dealing with the same basic stuff no matter who we are.
And it brings us back to that phrase the sources used to describe Darwin, the ultimate trust fund kid.
I know, right? Kind of funny, but it makes you think.
Yeah, like how much did his wealth shape his path?
It's a good question because we don't usually talk about the role of money in scientific discovery.
Right, we focus on the ideas, not the resources.
Exactly. And with Darwin, it's clear that his privilege gave him a huge advantage.
And it challenges us to think about how many other brilliant minds might have been out there but didn't have the same opportunities.
Totally. It makes you wonder what we're missing out on.
So if Darwin, with all his wealth and success, was still worried about his kids' future, what does that say about us? Like, are we all just programmed to worry no matter what?
Wow, that's deep.
It's a big question, right? Like, does any amount of success or money really change the fundamental human experience?
I don't know, but it's definitely something to think about.
It is, and I think this whole deep dive has given us a much richer understanding of who Darwin was.
Not just the scientist, but the person.
Exactly, and it reminds us that there's always more to learn, even about people we think we know well.
So keep questioning, keep exploring, keep diving deep.
That's what it's all about. We'll be back with another deep dive soon. But until then, happy exploring.